Welcome to today's video. I am so excited about today's video because I am bringing back the MAC Training Secrets Revealed series that I started a little over a year ago. If you are new to my channel, I will link all the videos down below, but basically I started a series where I reveal all the training secrets that I would train MAC artists on long time ago when I used to be a trainer for MAC Cosmetics. So I basically kind of share with you guys all of the tips and tricks and all the lesson plans that that myself and my boss would train the region that we worked in. So today we're going to be focusing on under eye concealing, like truly how to conceal dark under eyes. I mean, I know a lot of times I just throw a concealer on in most of my videos, and that's typically how I conceal, but some of us deal with really pretty severe, strong under eye circles, and we find that concealer by itself is usually not enough. So I'm going to talk about that today. I'm also going to talk about how to conceal blemishes. I have one today. It is red. This light is actually helping it a little bit because it's so bright, but it is really red and angry. So I'm going to show you guys how to conceal that as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we'll start with under eyes first. Now I'm going to zoom you guys in a little bit closer. Hang on. Okay, so as you can see, I have eye makeup on. I have a no complexion products on. So I have no foundation, no concealer, nothing underneath my eyes or on my skin. Let's talk a little bit about the under eye area. So the under eye area is, on most of us, darker than the rest of our skin. Usually there's either like a blue undertone, a green undertone, or like a purple undertone. So when you think about approaching your concealer, you want to think about how the shade that you use is going to be different than what we use on our skin for our foundation. I typically like to use a concealer that has a bit more pink or peach undertone to it because that is really what neutralizes and cancels out that darkness. Now, you know, I kind of compare it to this. If you have a really dark bruise on your leg and you wear light pantyhose, you're not fooling anybody, right? You can still see that bruise kind of peeking through. So this is kind of the same idea when you're dealing with under eyes that are really dark and you just use a concealer that's your skin tone. What you really need to do is find a color corrector. Now, sometimes you see these in the makeup store and you might be like, what is that? Because you see like a little palette and it has like a green concealer, an orange concealer, maybe a purple concealer. So color correctors are basically pigmented, creamy products that are designed to neutralize and cancel out the color that you're putting it on top of. So this goes back to the color wheel theory. When you look at a color wheel, do I have one here? I can't find my color wheel, but I will put one here on the screen so you can see. Basically, you want to look for a color that is opposite to the color that you're trying to correct on the color wheel. So when you see those green color correctors, if you look at a color wheel, green is directly opposite of red. So that's what you put on red blemishes, rosacea, skin that is really irritated and really red. Green is going to neutralize and calm that down. Now, when you look at orange or peach on a color wheel, that is directly across from blue or purple, right? Because purple is a variation of blue and red together. So that's why you look for a peach color corrector or even a more peach salmon colored concealer first. So I was looking through my collection and I actually don't have one. So I'm going to show you guys a trick. I'm going to show you two options here. We're going to do one eye with what I like to call a color corrector on training wheels. It's the Color Science Total Eye 3-in-1. What is the name? It's actually Color Science Total Eye 3-in-1 Renewal Therapy. So this is a really neat product. I've talked about this on my channel for a long time. I've got 3 tubes of it. I don't know which one's out and which one's the newest one. But the reason I love this product is because it can be so many different things. One, it has an SPF of 35, which is pretty awesome. 2, you can see that it has a pretty orange undertone to it, so it can work as a color corrector. You can use this before you put your concealer on, and it's going to help neutralize that darkness. And then when you layer your concealer, you're going to have pretty full coverage. Or 3, it can be a concealer on its own. You don't have to use it with a concealer necessarily on top of it. So when I blend it out, you can see, and this light is so bright, it's kind of making it look a little less orange than it really is on camera, but it's a very like subtle peach color corrector. It's very easy to work with. It's not intimidating at all. So I do love that. Oh, and it also has a treatment in it too. So it's kind of like an eye treatment as you apply your makeup every day. So that is an option to do. Another option is to get a concealer that is slightly darker than your skin tone and really peachy. I normally wear an NW20 in MAC concealer, so an NW25 would be a good option to use because it's a little bit darker. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I don't want my under eyes to be dark. dark. I like them to be bright. I totally understand. I do too. So a tip that you can do is you can apply a darker concealer to cancel that out, and then you can apply a brightness, like a sheer brighter concealer, just to brighten the under eye area. But let me actually go ahead and kind of demonstrate a couple of these tricks in action so you guys can tell. All right, so we're gonna go for, we're gonna start on the right eye with the Color Science product. I like the applicator because it's got like this cool tip. It's just really soothing under the eye. You really don't need a lot. I'm just gonna get a little bit on the tip of this applicator, and it's taking forever to focus, so we're just gonna move on. And I'm going to apply it underneath my eye, and then I'm gonna pat it in with my fingertip. Now you can see that is pretty peachy on my skin. It's very, very peachy. It's much more peachy than my typical concealer. So I'm gonna use my finger, and I'm just actually just gonna kind of pat this into the skin. I'm not gonna wipe away because I really don't wanna shear it out. I really want that corrector to neutralize that under eye area. I also like to layer this product, so you can apply a sheer layer, and then if you feel like it's not enough coverage, you can apply a little bit more. My tip for that is to go ahead and apply a little bit, blend it in, and then apply a little bit more. Instead of applying a lot at one time, you're gonna get a nicer finish, and you're gonna actually get more coverage that way. Okay, so I've blended that into the skin. So you can see that that definitely brightens. You compare the two eyes, it definitely brightens, right? But I still feel like you can kind of still see a little bit of darkness underneath my eye. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in with my concealer. Now, because I've layered another product, I don't want to go in with a full coverage concealer. I don't want to go in with a thick, heavy concealer because it's just going to be too much. And frankly, we don't need it, and it's going to make the under eye look very heavy, magnify signs of aging, texture, all of that. So I'm going to find a concealer. What do we have here? I have a lot of them in front of me. Let me find, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use this one. This is the Clé de Peau corrector. Now, this is a pricey product. I think it's like $65. By no means do you have to use this product, but I like this product because it is more sheer. Another great option that is similar to this, and it's still high end, but it's not $65. I think it's in the $40 range, is the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Concealer. The Maybelline Age Rewind would be a fantastic option as well. These concealer-like pens, they tend to just be a little more natural and lighter weight coverage. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with this. Now this is a lighter shade, so this is gonna give me that brightness that I want under my eye, while still, you know, having that color corrector underneath. Okay, next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my beauty blender. Now, I do like to use a beauty blender on my second product just because I have quite a bit of product underneath my eye. And the beauty blender is gonna help blend it into the skin, but it's also going to absorb any excess that might wanna hang out there. And I don't want a lot of extra product there for a few reasons. One, I don't want it to crease. Two, I don't want it to move. And three, I don't want it to look heavy. So we're just going to kind of press that under the eye. And then now you can see that you have really fantastic coverage. You don't really see any of that darkness under the eye. You definitely are getting a lot more coverage than if I were to use the Clé de Peau concealer on its own. I would not have this coverage. I feel like, I mean, you can compare the two sides and it's just like night and day, right? Okay, so that is one way to do it. Another way to do it, if you don't have a color corrector like this, by the way, you can pick them up. Becca has a really great one. It's in a little tub and it's a little more pinkish. Charlotte Tilbury has a great one that's a salmon color, but I want to show you this trick. This is something that we would teach when I worked at MAC, and it's really cool. And if anything, it just demonstrates the power of color theory and color correction. You don't have to do this if it makes you uncomfortable, but I really want to show you. So you can actually take a lipstick. Now, I found this lipstick in the shade Strip Search. It's by Tarte. Is this by Tarte? Too Faced. And it is a light peachy salmon colored lipstick. Now, I'm not going with a real matte lipstick because I don't want it to be too drying. I'm not going with a super glossy lipstick because I don't want it to be really glossy and move around under the eye and cause a bunch of creasing. I just want something that's creamy, that has that peach salmon tone. So I'm going to use this lipstick as a color corrector. Now I'm just going to kind of put it right underneath my eye. Now you can see that is quite peachy, right? I'm not putting a lot. You don't need a lot. You just need a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and use my ring finger, and we are going to press this under the eye and blend it in. You don't necessarily have to shear it all the way out. You might be thinking, you know, you got to shear it and kind of wipe it off. You don't. So I've blended it in, but you can still clearly see it's very, very orange and pink underneath there. Next, I'm going to take my pen, the same concealer that I had, the Clé de Peau, and we are going to apply that directly on top, just like we did before. Okay. And we're gonna blend it in with the Beauty Blender the same way we did. And we are going to conceal all of that orange. You are not gonna see any of that orange because that orange was used to neutralize and cancel out that blue, like kind of, because if you think about it, the under eyes, they're darker. It's almost like a bruise, right? Perfect, okay. And there you have it, you guys. So that is a really cool little trick. Okay, so let's move on to how to conceal blemishes. Now, I think the challenges that we run into with blemishes are, it's really red, right? And so sometimes a concealer doesn't really fully cover it. That's when you would reach in your back pocket and grab that Color Theory and color correction again, and you would reach for a green concealer. I don't have a green concealer and I don't have a green lipstick, so I can't show you guys that. However, I still wanted to include this tip in this video because I feel like a lot of us aren't gonna use a green color corrector. It's definitely an option. As you can see, I just showed you guys with a lipstick what that does. A green color corrector is gonna be the same idea. You're gonna put it on there, you're gonna see a little green tint, and then you're gonna cover it with a concealer. So just imagine that. But let's say you're like, I don't wanna go buy a green color corrector because I break out, you know, once every 6 months. I don't need a product to keep in my drawer that I'm not gonna use that often, because that's kind of my case. I don't really find that I would use it enough to warrant purchasing it. So I wanna show you a few tricks on how to conceal a blemish, why it's a little bit different. One, there's texture there, right? It's raised, it's not smooth and flat like the rest of our skin. Two, you need full coverage, but you also need it to blend in with the rest of the face, right? You don't want to have like this full coverage right here and then real natural everything else and that doesn't blend. And three, did I say, are we on three? Either 2 or 3. When you work with full coverage concealers, they can be thicker in consistency. They can be a little creamier. Those tend to move. A lot of complaints I hear is that, you know, I put on my full coverage concealer, but then like 3 hours later it's moved and it's, you know, I can see the spot, or I blend it till it blends in with the rest of my skin. And by the time I do that, I've blended it so much that you can actually see the blemish again. So I'm gonna show you guys a few techniques. It's nothing like, it's no magic. It's very simple techniques, but they are very important. They definitely play a role in how much coverage you get and how well that wears throughout the day. So the first thing you wanna do is you wanna find a concealer that is full coverage, and you wanna find a concealer that sets. You don't wanna grab a concealer that's too creamy or too glowy, because that is gonna tend to move a little bit. So I have a couple options here. I grabbed this one by Revolution Beauty. It's the Supersize Conceal and Define Full Coverage Concealer. This is one. I also grabbed the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye. Now, this is a little bit of a creamier consistency, but I love this concealer. It is some full coverage. Now, we're gonna use this one. The trick is you just need a little tiny amount of this. Do you see how much I grabbed? I mean, very, very, very small amount. I don't even know that I will use all of this. So I like to use my finger. Now, I do like to conceal before foundation. So I don't like to do foundation first and then conceal when I'm dealing with a blemish. I really kind of want to conceal that first. So I'm going to kind of press that onto the area. Now I've got a lot of product there. It doesn't seem like much, but it actually is a lot more than I need. So I'm gonna go ahead and wipe off my fingertip so I don't use any extra. I don't want excess product. Now I'm gonna be patient here because patience is key when you're doing this technique, because the person that's always in a hurry wants to just kind of rub through like I am, but you really wanna take your time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to kind of press with my finger just to kind of spread that concealer, but I don't wanna press so much that I shear that out. So now what we have is we have that little area that is the blemish, and then we have this border around it. So what we want to do is we want to blend that border into the rest of our skin. Okay. Now really light pressure, you guys, super light pressure. Okay, now I'm going to take my Beauty Blender and I am going to lightly kind of press around that border. I'm not going over the blemish. I don't want to remove any of that coverage that the blemish has. I just want to blend out the edges of that concealer so it blends in. Okay, now I'm kind of going over it a little bit. Now you can still see a little peek of that. I'm gonna go and apply my foundation, and then I'm gonna show you how you finish this Okay, so this is where we're at. You can still see a little bit of that blemish peeking through, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and apply my foundation, because remember, we don't even have foundation on right now. I'm using the Dior Forever foundation. This has a velvety matte finish. I'm really loving this foundation lately. A little bit goes a very long way. It is very long wearing. It is very matte, but it has more of a natural matte look to it. It doesn't look heavy or drying. I'm gonna use my BK Beauty 106 brush, and I'm just gonna go and apply this onto the skin. I am going to avoid the areas that we've applied concealer because we have so much product on our face or underneath our eyes. I don't want to add more, so I'm just going to make sure that I really only apply this where we have not applied concealer. Okay, so we've reached the side of the face that has a blemish that we concealed. You want to be real careful when you apply your foundation to not wipe that away. So I'm just going to kind of press and stipple the foundation on with my brush. I love this brush. It's such a great size, and it's such a great brush for getting full coverage, but making it easy and natural to blend out. Now I'm just gonna press this into the skin. I have not gone over that blemish. I definitely have gone around it. Okay, once I have it all blended in, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a tiny bit of foundation, just a little bit. I'm gonna kind of blot it on my hand, and I'm just gonna go right over the concealer. As you notice, I am really pressing. This is not where we wipe. We don't want to wipe because we're just going to shear all that out. So I'm just pressing. If you press too much, you're going to shear it out like I just did. So I'm just going to grab a little bit more. Now, one thing to remember about concealing blemishes, and it's something that I don't think we really, a lot of people don't really understand, is that you can cover color, you cannot cover texture. So if you have a blemish, a zit or something, and it's very like inflamed and swollen, you can cover the redness, but you're not going to make it look flat. It's still going to be noticeable in the texture that is there. And I think that's really important to remember. You cannot conceal texture. You can conceal color, but you cannot conceal texture. So just remember that, because you're never going to make it look completely smooth. You know, you're still going to see that texture. You'll still see a little bit of a shadow there maybe. Now I am going to set it with a powder, and I'm using the It Cosmetics Bye Bye Pore Powder, I think is what it's called, Bye Bye Pores. Love this guy. I'm going to use a small little brush. This is coming soon to you guys next year. And I'm just going to grab a little powder on the tip of my brush, and I am just going to set that area. I'm literally just going to kind of press it right over that to set it, to ensure that that concealer doesn't move. Go ahead and take this and set the center of my face as well. Under the eyes. This is such a great powder. Sometimes I have products that end up in the back of my drawer because I just get other new products, and then I pull them out for a video like this, and I remember how much I love them. This is one of those. Okay, I'm gonna go apply the rest of my makeup, and I will be right back. All right, you guys, and this is the finished look. You can see the under eyes are bright and concealed. Let me make sure of that. Yes, yes. And you can also see that the blemish is gone. So I hope this video was helpful. If you guys love this series and you want to see this revived and you want to see me come out with another video soon, let me know in the comment section below, and let me know what topics you guys want me to cover. Just drop it there in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate your time, seriously, more than I can express in a thank you on my video, but I really appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.